Okay, welcome back. You got the gift nifty, which will come up on your screen. 482 points is what you have. Prakash Diwan is with us with, his thoughts and his perspective on things as we start this new week. Lots to digest, but, de-escalation is the name of the game as we start this Monday morning. Prakash, what's your sense? It's a very light market positioning-wise, and today I think we should expect some covering. But where will most bulk of it show up, in your opinion?
Good morning. Good morning, Prashant. So essentially, just to follow up on what Nigel termed it as the bull's bazooka, needs also to see some sort of follow-up. There could be a section of the market that might be waiting for this opportunity to even further lighten positions and get off some of the trades that have gone wrong. But essentially, what it also tells you is that we are getting into earlier, it was just the escalation on the border, which was one of the causes for uncertainty and volatility. Now you probably have a couple of more things added to it. The ceasefire on the US-China tariff war, the ceasefire potentially on Ukraine-Russia. There will be lots that the news flow will just get more intense.
Ash, if I can come in, are you saying it's bull's bazooka is sort of getting on more longs? Because you're not long enough. It's a bit of a FOMO type of this thing. But
yes.
What you are also at the margin saying is that you expect people to get out of positions. I mean, book profits with this bounce. That's what you're saying?
Yes,
Which one is it?
Yeah, that's exactly the point, Prashant. Because remember, we the track record that we have on the operations on the border do not really enthuse a lot of confidence. Things could, start getting a bit ugly again. And these are very, very fickle kind of, situations. They change very quickly. And, the US tariff thing on the pharma side is something which is going to be an extremely difficult factor to price in. You really don't know how badly it's going to be hit. What's the kind of come down from wherever it starts. So, and we have a lot of exports, pharma exports. I mean, if you look at some of our largest pharma businesses, they have 30, 40%, 50% exports to the US. So that's going to drag the market down for sure. What's going to be important is today's market is going to weigh heavily on the fact that banking is going to make a significant comeback. You'll have a lot of capital getting freed for the likes of SBI and all, which could have been more timely because you're just getting into a credit up cycle and that will always help. But what I'm saying is that the broader market might not see that kind of participation just yet. You'll probably have to see this piece get a bit more well established and digested. And if that were to happen, then things could probably look up with a lag. But today's market will probably, end up being a little bit of a sell on rise market for quite some players. Some segments of the market at least. The FI inflow, if you saw, it kind of turned the tide after 16 sessions, but there are lots of shorts which will get covered. So technically, the market gets its upside from there. Is what the gift nifty is also reflecting. But fundamental buying is again going to be based on news flow related to earnings and results and tariffs and all. So we'll have to see that. I wouldn't jump the gun yet. Sorry for using something which is related to the hostilities, but that's where things are. Let's wait for things to settle down a bit and then probably start looking at individual stocks.
All right, Prakash, taking that point on board, and from the defense names, you gave us a few of them in Friday's trading session. One such stock was DCX Systems. We got that on board. But Prakash, if you have to see that bazooka from the bulls today, the point that I made was the Nifty Bank needs to be the one that, does bulk of the lifting. So let's see whether or not that happens. That said, let's focus on a couple of other names then. How do you approach a stock like Yes Bank today? You have that big deal that was in the offing. The street sniffed it, though. If you look at the delivery volumes the last couple of trading sessions, you look at the way the stock behaved in the last 2 hours of trade as well in Friday's trading session, the street was sniffing something. What do you do with the stock from here on?
No, absolutely right, Nigel. We spoke about this briefly, and I said there are lots of occasions in the past as well where things started looking very close to fruition and things didn't happen. Finally, it's happening. But am I okay to miss the up move? The answer is yes, because, Yes Bank, the texture of ownership amongst retail is so different. These exits are all very custom made, very structured. People will, the banks, the larger banks will get their money from Sumitomo, but what's going to happen is that every rise, you'll probably also have a lot of people who've been waiting to kind of book profits and exit. So the stock might not be able to kind of rally hard and stay there. That's again the whole point. But what it does is the capital that comes to the other banks, the sellers, is just very, very, very positive. And that means that you would probably look at, and some of the numbers tell you, look at Canara Bank over the last week, you have Bank of India, decent set of numbers, though, it might open in the red, but the obvious this thing is that banking is where the money is going to start coming in if things start normalizing. That's the first port of call before, other industrials and consumption and cement and all of that happens. So I think we could focus on banking for this week, and the bank Nifty might probably outsmart the Nifty to quite some extent.
Prakash, hi, morning. Let's talk about food or food delivery. I'm talking about Swiggy. So this is something that was always feared, right? And that's why these stocks started falling as well last 1 or 2 quarters ago, when it became clear that they're investing far more in quick commerce. These dark stores will roll out and they'll have to bear the losses. That's exactly what's playing out on Swiggy. Do you think some of this can be digested by the market because it's not new, or is it a fresh negative? I mean, they, for instance, their break-even timelines, they're lengthening now because of it. Your thoughts?
No, good morning. So, it's a difficult business to make profitable. The path to profitability is still some time away. And we've seen that. We've seen how, Zomato or Eternal kind of had to change tracks just to kind of make sure that the core food business is what they build on. And that's exactly what's showing even in the case of Swiggy. So Swiggy on a standalone food business might continue to do well because that's a more mature channel. But if you look at Instamart, it still has lots of these ifs and buts and lots of holes in terms of geographical presence, in terms of the back-end infrastructure. But from all that perspective, you see whoever blinks, the other person starts kind of filling that space for the simple reason that everybody feels that they have a right to win. So Zepto did that to Swiggy, Swiggy did that to Zomato, and this will continue. In the process, they'll keep burning a lot of cash, and today cash is not so easily coming. So, which means that they will have stressed out balance sheets, and the market doesn't really want to or need to look at, these kind of things. So even if you get an upside, how much of that upside could it be? It can't be, so dramatic that you could risk your money into some of these Swiggies of the world today. So at this 300 whereabout levels, I don't think it still offers any kind of a risk reward, which is very compelling. I would still, if I had to allocate money to that space, it would have to be the most mature business, and that's Eternal. So very, very clearly, not some great numbers, but at least, one heartening thing in that interview with Mangalam that management spoke, and I just heard, was that at least the investment cycle is kind of peaking out, which means that there's less bad news going forward, but there's still not great good news yet in the making.
Okay, so cautious stance on Swiggy.